Hey everybody, welcome back. Steve Basic Architect here from the Build Show Network. Another death-defying feat. Climbed up out on this rock here so we can get up to the level here, putting my life in danger to bring you some of the best information about building on the internet. Anyways, what are we talking about today? Flashing tape and integrated weather barriers. Right, so we talked about zip system last week in the video where we talked about the integral or integrated weather resistant barrier on top of the zip R9 sheathing so that we get that weather barrier, or what I term the Alamo. But we end up having joints in between those sheets because they come in 4x8 sheets. So how do we treat those? Well, zip tape comes in a roll 3-inch. You put it here. Obviously you want to lap it, shingle fashion properly. But the most important thing to do is that it says it right on here, roll the tape. So you actually want to apply pressure when the tape is put on. Now, why do you want to roll the tape? All right? Well, you roll the tape because it's a pressure sensitive adhesive. What did I say? Oh, pressure sensitive adhesive. So the adhesive doesn't activate unless I apply pressure. So if I just put the tape on there and I don't apply any pressure, then the tape isn't allowed to be put in a position for its success, right? We got to roll the tape. And guess what Zip did? Well, they put these little Z's on the roller so that when I roll it, you can actually see the Z's make a little impression on the tape so that I get quality control from a visual aspect as I roll that tape. Now, the other thing to pay attention to is when you look at the surface of the zip board, right? Notice that the surface here isn't this flat, like pure finish here. It's actually kind of micro, I call it micro contours. And it's that way for a reason. Let's go back to the studio and I'll enlighten you on why we have micro contours on the surface of that sheathing. So I'll see you back at the studio. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Build Show Network. Steve Basic Architect here. I am live from Studio B. We'll call it B. Hey, today we got an interesting detail to look at. Usually we're looking at construction details, but today we're going to talk about just the simple idea of wetting the tape. Yes, we use a weather-resistant barrier called zip sheathing. You see it out there on the job site. Nice green board there, but it has an integrated weather-resistant barrier, or building paper, if you will, that comes attached to it from the factory. So, how do we connect all those panels when we put them up? Well, we tape them, but we don't just tape them. We got to make sure that we are wetting the tape. So, got my good friend Big Red. I got a nice little diagram here that I use in my presentations to talk about wetting the tape. And yeah, let's get some energy, but more importantly, let's talk a little surface energy. You'll see what I mean. Let's hit the details. All right, so got Big Red. I got these two images here, and you're probably wondering, what do those images have to do with construction? So remember, we're talking about what happens when you roll the tape, right? And remember, the tape is a pressure sensitive adhesive. And the key word there being pressure. And what does pressure sensitive adhesive have to do with roll the tape? Well, there's a reason why we roll. It's to exert pressure. So why do we want to do that? So let's look at the image at the bottom here. So if this is my zip board. And if you look really close, you'll see that zip has what I call micro contours. Now, we're blowing this up exponentially so that those micro contours look like a really jagged edge, but keep in mind that whole jagged edge is probably happening in like 10 mils or less, but nonetheless, it provides that jagged edge. And so when I take tape and I just string it across that joint of the zip, and I touch it there and stretch it out and touch it there, well, what happens, you can see, it has a bunch of these voids that are happening there. And what happens there is that you don't really get any adhesion. And if you're not getting any adhesion, then you're really not supporting the intent of the tape, given that it's a pressure-sensitive adhesive, right? The whole idea of having an adhesive tape is to successfully get adhesion. So when you roll the tape, what happens is that you apply pressure. That pressure pushes that tape down into those joints. And it hits that, what I call, micro-contoured surface of the zip. And so you end up with something that looks more like this, where the tape pretty much follows the contour, that micro-contour of the surface. And by applying pressure via rolling the tape, we get full or near full adhesion. So why does that matter? Well, when we get full adhesion, we get what is termed a very high surface energy. And because we have a high surface energy in that connection, as opposed to, in this case here, a very low surface energy, that high surface energy provides superb adhesion. Low surface energy provides little to no adhesion. And so you can see in this one here that after a day of installing that, you'd be able to come grab this and basically rip it off the wall with little to no harm to the wall because it's barely touching. Here, we get that full adhesion, or in terms of tape, the tape people like to call it the wetting process. That's W-E-T-T-I-N-G. And the wetting process, I mean, there's gentlemen that I know of that I have met and talked to that have 2 or 3 PhDs where they understand wetting better than anybody else probably in the world. But basically what the wetting is getting that full adhesion due to a very high surface energy, so that we get not only that easy adherence, but that continuity of adhesion. And that continuity of adhesion gives us the strength of that tape bond. So when people sit there and say, well, you know, this tape really isn't working, when Zip first came out, I used to go out to projects, guys said, yeah, this tape doesn't really work, and it's before the whole, you know, they said to roll the tape or apply pressure, but then they really had a campaign where they did it, because a lot of people were simply doing this and saying, oh, the tape doesn't really work. Well, it's because they weren't getting that tape to this level of full adhesion. So anyways, tape, pressure sensitive adhesive. You know, I said I had mentioned that I had met some gentlemen, and one of them is one of the gentlemen that has worked on the development of the Zip tape, and it's basically his baby. But I spent a significant amount of time with him, And you know, at the end, he said, Steve, because it's basically true of any tape, right? You have to wet the tape. You have to get that adhesive in the process of a high surface energy where it's interacting with as much of the surface as you can possibly manage, and you don't want that low surface energy for it to be successful. So let's wrap it up. Roll the tape. Roll it hard, get that full adhesion, wet the tape, get that continuity, and we'll put our buildings in a position for success. So there you have it. Everything you need to know about zip tape, how it works, why it works, and what do we need to do to get it to work. Well, there you go. That's about the extent of my chemistry teaching. So anyways, hopefully you enjoyed that video. Hopefully it gave you a little bit more insight. PSA, pressure sensitive adhesive. Remember, pressure is everything. You've got to wet the tape. So hopefully you enjoyed that. If you're looking for more, find me Steve Basic Architect on Instagram, putting up stuff almost every day. Something there for me to share with you all. Some of it you might know, some of it you might be able to enhance, and we learn together. So put it up there and we have some conversation. So have at it. Check it out. If you're looking for more, I don't think there's any place to look any further than the Build Show Network. Literally thousands of videos here that you can check out. A whole bunch of free information, stuff that we're building today, not stuff that is archived. These aren't old slides. This is decisions that I made last week. So go check them out. Lastly, you can find me and my good friends Jake and Pete on the Unbuild It Show, where we talk about everything building science and building. So you can find us on all the audio channels for our podcast, and you can find us on YouTube. So anyways, go check it out. Hopefully, like I said, you enjoyed this video. Go check out all those other videos on the Build Show Network. Remember, you got to watch them 7 times before you actually absorb any of that information. So just going by what the science says. But anyways, hopefully you enjoyed that. Big Red and myself, we're signing off. Until next time, long live our buildings.